We are lucky enough this morning to dig into some Canadian fare. It's a taste of our nation with the authors of Feast, and this was a feat. They join me this morning. It is Lindsay and Dana who penned Feast, photographed, gathered the recipes, traveled. I have to show you the vehicle because this is close quarters for you two. Yep. So you traveled the nation in this teeny tiny car.
Toyota Yaris. Yeah, we squeezed ourselves and all of our things for 5 months into that little beast.
With 2 bikes on the back, too.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And that was the time we got stuck in the mud.
Oh, my goodness.
One time we had to call a tow truck was that time.
Okay, so we want to hear these stories, and there are so many to tell, I'm sure. And how did this idea originate, the two of you getting into a tiny vehicle and, basically telling our nation's story through food?
Well, we'd initially hoped to get a bigger vehicle, but the whole idea started while we were camping one time and kind of throwing around ideas and
felt like having a big adventure.
Yeah,
felt like we were ready to get out in the world and travel.
Yes.
Kind of talking about Canadian food and what it is and how we're both Canadians from different parts of the country and don't really have a definition for it.
So we figured, like, let's go, and then we were very determined to get to all 10 provinces and all 3 territories. Once we started planning for that, then it was like, oh, this is a pretty difficult task we're taking on,
yes.
But it all worked out in the end. 150 days on the road. But we made it to all 10 provinces and 3 territories.
You must really like each other.
We do. Thank goodness,
know
right?
Very well. Because following that, the writing process was another feat in and of itself.
Yeah.
So that took 8 months?
About, 8 or 9 months.
And then another 10 months, 11 months of editing.
Yeah, okay, so living with Canadian food for that amount of time.
Totally. We feel like we know it pretty well now.
Yeah, and do you feel like I think people have their own definitions of Canadian food, and we think of poutine and Nanaimo bars, and you write about that in the book. Yeah. But do you find that your definition has changed after this trip? Yeah,
we feel like we are much less inclined now to try and pin it down to one thing. You get out into Canada and you realize this country is insanely diverse, and it's absolutely massive, right? And there's huge regional differences even within a few hours of one another. So we kind of decided there's no point in trying to narrowly define Canadian food. The best thing you can do is to just celebrate its diversity and acknowledge the fact that there is a ton of really unique, amazing food in our borders.
Okay, we're going to make one of these recipes this morning. What are we making?
We're making a savory granola. It's salty rosemary granola. And we love granola, and it can often be very sweet. So we've added a lot of salt to this one, and it's so addicting. It lasts for a couple of weeks.
It's still sweet. It's the sweet and salty kick that gets you.
I like that. I like that. Okay, let's get right to it. So what are we putting together?
Okay, so this is rolled oats. We've got large flake coconut, pistachios chopped, pumpkin seeds.
Also very green.
Yes.
A real green hue to it.
And what region inspired this dish?
This is like prairie. So oats, of course, are from the prairies. We really wanted to highlight hemp hearts, which are grown quite a bit in Manitoba.
That was kind of the reason for this recipe. Ultimately, was we're like, we really want to showcase hemp hearts.
Okay.
And
delicious.
Then salt, and you just got to mix this up.
And then it's super easy to put together because you basically just mix the dry ingredients, and then the wet ingredients, I've already melted here, honey, coconut oil, and then we've got maple syrup, so also classic Canadian ingredient. And the nice thing about this recipe too is there's no refined sugar in it, so you don't feel bad if you eat the entire batch in a day or two.
I like that permission. Yeah. Permission granted.
And then also fresh rosemary that you just chop up and add to the wet mixture here, and you just melt those together. Yum. It's super simple, and then you pour that over your dry ingredients. Give it a toss.
And there's a great variety of contributors. So who were you seeking out to create these recipes, inspire you to write?
So we basically, once we got back from the road trip and continued writing on our blog, which is edibleroadtrip.com, once we decided to write the book and wrote the book proposal, and that was successful, we just started sending out literally hundreds of emails to all the people that we had met as we were traveling, because as we had been on the road, we interviewed cooks and foragers and beer makers and sort of anybody, and grandmothers, like anybody that was willing to talk to us, and asked them if they could contribute recipes that were meaningful to them, to the region that they're in, that kind of showcase their local cuisine, and the recipes just started rolling in. And then we complemented those recipes with some of our own. So we developed this recipe.
Yes.
And we also, this is a miso birch syrup black cod recipe that kind of marries a really amazing Yukon ingredient, which is birch syrup, and a sort of Japanese beloved dish in Vancouver. And then we also have a wild rice pudding.
Delicious.
This is from Chef Taliasiri of the Tallest Poppy in Winnipeg. Rice pudding is delicious and found all over the country, and this features another prairie ingredient, which is wild rice, and blueberries, of course, from across the country.
Gorgeous. Okay, how do we finish this off?
Okay, so this you can then spread over a couple of baking sheets, and you're just going to want to spread it out quite a bit. You're going to toss it in the oven for about 20 minutes, and halfway through you'll want to rotate it, mix it up a little bit, and then cook it until it's just golden. Let it cool and eat away.
Beautiful. There it is in the mason jar, the finished product.
Great with yogurt. And just to snack on.
Or just by itself, or go for the whole thing. The book is beautiful. It's called Feast. Congratulations to the two of you on a great accomplishment. And now that it's all done, any separation anxiety?
I mean, we still spend a lot of time together.
Fair enough, fair enough. There's a book tour to follow. Happy coincidence, the 150th birthday of our nation. So you can dig into some Canadian fare. Thank you, ladies.
No problem. And we'll be at the Cookbook Co. on March 2nd.
Terrific.
Tomorrow night.
Continued success.
Yes.